Hey folks, so the banned and suspended announcement for Flesh and Blood came out earlier this week. Interesting excitement around that one. Some people like it, some people don't. But today I'm here with Matthew. He's an Oldhim player and a Kano player. That's right, he's going to give us his take on the announcement. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, Flesh and Blood folks. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. And Matthew, thanks for joining us once again. How's it going, man?
It's doing great. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Or are you talking about the BNS, right? So what we're going to do tonight, he is an Oldhim player, and he also plays Kano in Blitz quite a bit. That's why we were actually here brewing beer together, and we figured, hey, let's shoot in the fancy high-tech recording studio that Andrew just so happens to have in his living room. But anyway, so we'll talk CC first because that's a lot easier, right? So at this point, most of you guys know the only change to CC, which will be here through Worlds, is Pulse of Ice and Loft is banned. So as an Oldhim player, are you butthurt? Where do you fall on the butthurt spectrum?
Probably say about a 5.
Of 10 or a 5?
Of 10. 5 out of 10. I mean, Pulse is great for obvious reasons. It synergizes with Oldhim. You get both effects to pitch to him. It makes Old a 3-card hand. And it's just basically those two reasons. It's those two reasons. And one thing that I think a lot of people forget is the damage prevention on the Earth reaction is floating. So you can use it for anything, Rosetta, Arcane, what have you. So it was just a very versatile card. It was great to pitch stack. You usually, thanks to Crown of Seeds, would see Pulse at least twice in the Fatigue plan.
Which is a good number of matchups. Right?
Yeah, and it also helped, keep consistency. If you knew you had multiple Ogins lined up, you could hold Pulse and just keep the tempo, which is something that Oldhim struggles with now. So it's going to make Ogin Old go from 3 cards to 4, and you have to remember that besides Autumn's Touch and Winter's Grasp, all those elemental cards are blocked too. So so he's definitely going to be definitely more defensive now. It's going to be harder to keep tempo, and I don't think that's really a hard thing for Oldhim to do. I usually think playing the first Ogin Old you see the first time is the wrong thing to do.
Right.
So I think it's like they intended. It's just going to knock him down a couple pegs. It's not going to cripple him or slow him down too much.
Yeah, so I think you nailed it on the head, at least for where I'm thinking, and that's where I wanted to ask about is you talked about the pitch stack dual, not dual, but back-to-back Ogin Olds, right? That's where it's really backbreaking because you can keep that in hand. So is in your opinion, is that really, because I know that you chatted with LSS the next day, right, obviously, but in your opinion, is that really the reason? Because using it defensively is great, but I don't think that's game breaking enough at a rate of 1, right? So is it really that dual back-to-back pitch stack play?
It's pretty, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's, that was the big complaint with, not to give anyone flashbacks to Starvo, but that was the thing that they hated about Starvo was the back-to-back fusing that just kind of made it feel like you couldn't do anything. So I think probably eliminating those experiences is what motivated them more, the offensive utility than the defensive. I think, in the current meta between like Viserai, his creepers, and just how wide Fi can go, I'm not sure. I haven't found the Ice React as useful as I have against like slower heroes. So I definitely think they banned it with the offensive utility in mind.
Yeah, that's fair. And when Natan was on, he actually talked about how he preferred on paper, you look at Oldhim, you're like, I can prevent 2 damage every turn. Sounds great, but the Earth reacts actually better, right?
You mean the ice?
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry. I flipped it. Yes. Yeah. Sorry. The hand card to deck is better than preventing 2 damage.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Sorry about that. So, all right. So, just to sum up the CC changes, then any expected impact to meta overall?
No, not really. I think it's still going to be those 6 heroes. I think we saw coming out of US Nats that it was largely Icelander, Oldhim, and Fi. We're starting to see Rising Rebellion with Fi. And I think Briar, Dromai, and Viserai will always be on the heels. So I'm not expecting a big change there. I don't think anyone...
And how about the Dash matchup? Does it change that at all? Because Dash typically goes control setup into the Guardians.
Yeah, I think even for Dash, it's... if anything, it's slightly better. Any matchup that has a strong, late game is going to have a strong game into Oldhim. So I think if she can get, it doesn't stop her from getting her items out. So yeah. I don't foresee that matchup being impacted.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's go into the controversial, community controversial ones of it, we should say, which is the UPF changes with, I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm kidding. All right, so Blitz changes. So Bloodchief, Skeleta, however you want to say it, depending on where you live in the world, that is banned, but I'll skip ahead. Sonata Arcanic moves from suspended to legal. It is interesting that Skeleta moved to banned, whereas Sonata was suspended. That is interesting. Mask of Pouncing Lynx is banned, and Stormstriders is suspended until the next BNS. That's clearly the one that's the most controversial, but there's a lot going on here, right? So let's break down the easier one. So Sonata's back, Bloodsheath is gone. I think it's clear why they couldn't have the 2 of those in together, or at least didn't want to have the 2 of those in together, right? Whether could or could not, I don't know. But whether, they didn't want them in together makes sense. It's clearly the Quill Hand Skeleta play is why they also did that, right? So fair enough, Sonata's back. What do you think? Could they just have made a rule change there on the reduction of XX cost, which was always kind of a weird one? Or do they have to keep that in for other things? Or, what's the play there?
I honestly don't know what the right answer is. I think with Viserai not legal, it was pretty inconsequential. I think most Runeblade players went, cool. Briar stuff doesn't cost anything, and I don't think Chane gives up cost under any circumstances. I do think that cost reduction should be limited, especially with how easy it is to double revel, and then now you can pay for you have a free runic or whatever. If you just we brought up Chane, you could go Quillhand, Skeleta, and then I don't know, like Howl's free. Soul Reaping's already free, but you could throw in you want to catch your opponent off guard and play Triptych. Now it's 7 with 2 rune chance and threatening 3, however many more on hit. So, I think the cost reduction just in the current without Viserai doesn't seem like it's as needed, but the other heroes can still definitely abuse.
Well, Briar can absolutely surge into a not the Autumn's Touch. What's her Bramble? Not Bramble Spark.
Stir the
Wildwood. Thank you. Yeah. So, all right. Fair enough. That's. That we've been dancing around those ones for 3 or 4 BNSs now, or BNRs to go back to the olden days, right? Right. So, Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. This is very clearly a Fi play, right? I know the Benji players are taking this one personally. This is not an attack on Benji. It's very clearly a Salt in the Wind play, right? They're after Fi on this one. I think that one's pretty clear. Whether you agree with it or not. Yeah, any comments on that?
My only thing is, if you talk to someone who wants to get into the game and they want to play Ninja, the first thing out of their mouth is how much Master Momentum is. And I don't necessarily fault them for that.
But that's a fair point.
They had, an option in Pouncing Lynx. And Blitz is the quote-unquote, new player format. It's the quote-unquote budget format. And Ninja's a great way to learn the game. So I think for me, it's more disappointing from that point of view.
I think that's a fair point. Because we saw budget alternate equipment for a lot of options come in Everfest and to a certain degree before that. That's a fair point I hadn't thought of. Yeah, that is fair. But Fi being able to tutor that out is pretty good. in a 20 health format.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And blocking Benji was pretty. I mean, I played Bravo and Oldhim through season 5, so I never had it where you just throw plating and fist in front of it, and you didn't really sweat it. But it's just more my concern is for the new player who wants to get into Ninja, and I'm not sure what they're gonna run now.
Iron Run Helm, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so let's move on to the big bomb. Storm Striders is suspended until the next BNS announcement. Excuse me. So here's my question. Here's the controversial part of it. Right? It's not banned, it's suspended. So is this clear? Is this just a play by LSS to make sure that they don't have a series of OTKs on stream at Worlds where everybody's watching? I mean, is that really just the move? Is this coming back in a month and a half, or what do you think?
I do think it's definitely, I'm not going to call it damage control, but it's, they want to restir the pot, and hopefully they set on a more balanced meta, I think is the play. It will definitely increase the life threshold against Wizard, which will prevent that OTK or the, like the turn 2 non-game, you die, there's nothing you can do about it. Definitely it makes... it definitely is going to reduce the amount of wizards that we're going to see.
For sure.
Icelander to some extent can play without Storm Striders. Before she got her toys in Uprising, brain fart. I played her in Blitz for like a very...
for a hot minute.
Yeah. And... I was surprised, how wide you could go with just the wizard tools that you had. I was using stuff like Absorbent Aether into Blue Reverberate from Arsenal, so now that's 3. You could banish Chain Lightning, play that. Now you can play something else from hand. You could still do like all that without Striders. Having Striders, you could front load it with a Wildfire and then come through with all that stuff. So I think she's still going to be very powerful. She's still going to be very oppressive. Mm-hmm. It's just she's going to lose that big, red Aether Ice Vein, red freezing point on your turn, which lowers her life threshold from what she can get you at, and hopefully it diversifies the meta. I think now Blitz is Icelander and Oldhim, which kind of screams Prism. But
maybe we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, Prism's always had a hard time in Blitz, but it is possible. I was just looking for the trying to find it here to be cool, but I can't find it because I'm trying to listen. The card legality format, right? Because we still have, right. This is just the BNR announcement or BNS announcement that came out was just the changes, right? It doesn't remove anything that was previously announced, right? It only announces the changes. So Snapback's still gone.
Yes.
Blitz, right? It doesn't change that, and Snapback's huge. So I'll just cut to it. Why? And shout out to the Outcast Haven Boys. Their podcast came out this morning, the day we're shooting this, and they kind of brought it up too. Aether Wildfire, like that card's probably busted. Why is Aether Wildfire not on this list, and why is all this other stuff beating around the Aether Wildfire bush?
That's a great question. That would have been the more asymmetric approach to this. They would have hit something, on Icelander's side, and they would have hit something on Kano's side. Mm-hmm. And then they could have kept their, their wizard identity in the boots. I definitely, Aether Wildfire is, it can lead to a lot of non-games, right? They dump it and it spirals. I mean, you can just, I think the most, I've gotten Blazing Aether to 64 with it. It was, cascading.
That was in Blitz?
No, that was in CC. Yeah. But in Blitz, I think the most I got it, Snapback for 17 when it was legal. All that is perfectly possible. Especially with the potions that came with it, you can control, and Ragamuffin's hat, sorry, just thinking out loud here. It can definitely lead to a very poor play experience. So I think, if it was me, I would have said, okay, Wildfire is either... this needs to be banned, and now you can have at least Stir and Snapback back, and they would have to figure out how they touch Icelander without completely removing her identity either. I mean, I think Waning Moon obviously feels bad when you're on the other side of it. They're just constantly dinging you for 2 and 3. and there's nothing to stop them from doing that on their turn as well. So, but then she's, does she become quote unquote unplayable? Right. So I don't know. I really don't know if Storm Striders was the right play. It was definitely the most symmetric. I don't know if that's the...
Yeah. Well, I mean, so Storm Striders, I think, was... So Icelander's very strong in Blitz, right? Zero question about it. And she's, I think... Is she stronger than Kano? I don't know, but she's definitely more consistent than Kano, and like she's definitely bringing down more wins, I think. I mean, somebody'd have to look at the data, but in terms of who brought home trophies during skirmish season, it was Icelander brought home more, right? So we've got that to go off of. And I know there's some thought that Striders was to try and knock Icelander down, but I'm wondering if it wasn't just to try and reduce the number of just pure OTKs, right? Because that'll look real bad on stream to have even one game. Right. Like some of these people are checking out Flesh and Blood for the first time, and even one game is just like, boom, boom, boom. And it's like, well, I don't want to play a game where I can lose and not interact.
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, we'll see if they bring it back, if it's just a play, if it's an actual direction change. I don't know. But Waning Moon, you bring up a good point, right? So if you compare Waning Moon, which is it's the first one that it's not the first one that deals arcane damage on, and by that I mean weapon. It's not the first one that deals arcane damage on its own, but it deals significant enough arcane damage on its own that you have to like not pitch a red to it. Right. And you can do it twice. So whereas Crucible, right, which is a very good weapon, you're pumping something, but you also have to do something to do it. So is Waning Moon, because I think Waning Moon's on curve, right? It's 2 for 2, 2 for 3, depending on condition. It's probably on curve, but just because it's on curve doesn't mean it's not too good, right? So what do you think there?
Yeah, it's on curve. It made sense mathematically and all that, but it definitely feels a little... It kind of felt like a smack in the face on the other side. So I think it is a little too good, and I'm not really sure if there's a way you fix it. Maybe you
can't errata it at the time, right? Yeah.
So, and I don't know if you ban it.
I guess you could, but what do you errata? Because it's a pretty simple thing. It's like pay to do this or this. There's not a lot to fix there, right?
Maybe you just scale down the damage or something. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think if you wanted to do it, if it would have been up to me, I think they would have suspended Wildfire and maybe.
But suspend Wild, because generally you suspend it until X. So you suspend it until Kano goes away?
Yeah, I guess that would be the finish line for sure. He can definitely abuse it. I
don't see a lot of Icelanders running that.
No, I think since Uprising it's been absent from the list.
That's fair. Yeah. She did before. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Okay, so if you're... let's talk meta. Or projections on both sides. I mean, I know you. So you're going down to Worlds, or I forget.
No,
you're not going to make it. All right. But if you were playing at the Worlds tournament, does this change? Were you planning on bringing Wizard to begin with?
In Blitz, I was thinking about it, but I've been playing Chane since the end of season.
So I'm not talking the calling. I'm talking if you're somebody who's qualified for Worlds and you're playing against the best people in the world, are you actually bringing Kano? Put yourself in someone else's body. Are you actually playing Kano, and thus does this actually affect you, or do you think it affects the meta game much, or do you think it's just a protection against bad games on camera? I don't know.
I don't. Kano has always been at, maybe not so much at Gangai, but if you've went to other places, there's always been Kano representation. For me, if I was a top player and I was like seriously grinding for Worlds, I don't know if I would have the time to get the reps I needed to be playing Kano and Blitz, unless I've been doing it previously. I probably would play something that I was maybe more familiar with, or something that translated from like whatever I brought CC. So if I went, I'd probably double down on Oldhim.
Yeah, that's fair. He's good in both. That's fair.
Yeah, but if I was
that's actually a really good point, because then you don't have to mind shift all that much from your two formats, so you can focus on two things in Blitz. It's actually a really good play. Yeah, that's fair. So who do you think? All right, projections. Who do you think then? I mean, we already talked about, that we don't think much changes in CC. So is it still a 30% Oldhim field? What do you think in terms of numbers there?
I think as long as he has Crown of Seeds, it's not much changes with Pulse gone. I'm not advocating for Crown to be gone, but I think that's more critical to his game plan than Pulse is. So I think maybe it makes more room for slowing him down. Might make Dromai, she might make up some of that gap. But if Fi is really upticking, and that will definitely decrease his win percentage into Fi, marginally, albeit. But so I guess we'd see more Fi, and I guess the counter would be to just race. So I would say maybe we'd see an uptick in Briar if Oldhim is ticked down. I feel like he's been the one since his uptick. I've noticed her downtick in points and wins, and obviously.
It's a lot of the same players too, sharing card pools and.
Yeah. So I don't expect much to change in CC. For Blitz, I would still anticipate a very prevalent presence of Icelander. I think that I
agree.
She runs at most like 12 reds, and those would be your Strider's targets. So given that your deck is less than 10 or less than 20%, or 25% red. It's
on one of those now. You can count on it because it's a no sideboard format. You're going to be running Raging Bull now or Wounded Bull now. Right. It's going to happen. Right. Maybe Scar for Scar. I have opinions on that, but Aether Ice Vein might actually red Aether Ice Vein might actually go away.
It'll be much tougher for her. She won't be able to do it on your turn anymore.
Yeah. And then in that case, wouldn't you just run Bolting Bolt? Or even run like Scalding Rain so that you can Scalding Rain for a blue, you can Scalding Rain into Waning.
Yeah.
Send them 2 packets. That almost seems better to me, but for a single blue is what I'm saying. So then you have something in Arsenal. But
yeah, and I think if they want more go wide utility, they always have the blue Reverberate option with the Absorbent Aether play or what's the other one? Oh, that's the only one that pumps.
Because you don't have Stir, right? So, Stir. All right, well, fair enough. Any other thoughts about this whole thing? I said there's the Yorick thing, which is kind of funny. I guess people just don't want to shuffle their decks together. I guess basically the only thing I can see there. But if you're all buddies and you're all playing PvE together, I don't know what to do. But it's UPF, so fair enough. Have you ever played UPF?
No.
I mean, that makes 2 of us, so fair enough. All right. Well, any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
I've tried to make Kano work without boots. It is tough.
You were using Mage Masters, or?
I was just using Iron Hide, more armor.
Okay.
I was trying stuff like Seek Horizons and Moonwish. Rise Above, if you have Dampen in hand, actually isn't terrible because you could put Dampen on top, block 4, and then Kano the Dampen, and then you can prevent like another 5, which isn't terrible. I tried the more defensive route, but he really lost his identity. So I'm hoping he serves his suspension like a good boy, and we can have Storm Striders again.
Fair enough. Well, we will see if it comes back afterwards. Oh, real quick question. The new spoiler that we've seen, let me pull it up. I do not remember the name, but it's you play it on your turn, and then it pops at or you play it, doesn't necessarily have to be on your turn, I suppose, but you play it, and then it pops at the beginning of your turn, and the next effect you have that deals, or if the next card you play deals Arcane, it gets pumped. Is that Kanoable, or is that mostly an Icelander card? What do you think?
I think that's more of an Icelander card.
It's what it feels like to me, but
I think so. For Kano, there's a very limited number of cards that block for 2 that you can tolerate, and I don't think that effect is good enough to warrant its place. Toma Aetherwind, that's a great card. Toma Findel, that can be life. Stir the Aetherwind in CC. Obviously, you want that. But any other block 2s, I just can't.
Blessing of Aether, sorry.
Blessing. Yeah. I just think for a 2 block, and that it happens on your turn, it's not. No, I don't know what you would cut for it. I'd rather have Cinerate Foresight red.
Well, I mean, even Blessing of Aether into your Aether Ice Vein, and I mean, I know we're just saying red Aether Ice Vein is not necessarily the thing, but it might be if you can pump it and
if you
force
can
the discard and
pump it to 8, they're absolutely paying or discarding, and then they're completely exposed for after you drew up and arsenaled something. So
yeah, fair enough. Well, we'll see how that plays out. Well, anyway, thanks, man, for taking the time, and
yeah, thanks for having me.
So let us know, folks. I know there's a lot of Kano people out there who are level 11 on the butt hurt scale, but we will see how permanent this is and how long this is. So anyway, thanks, man. Say it with me.
Go Commando.